The phone didn't ring. It just vibrated on my desk like it had something to prove. Not loud, not dramatic, just that low buzz that cuts through printer noise and stale office coffee. I glanced down and saw my wife's name. Bright, ordinary, like nothing had changed. I answered without standing. Her voice came through already smiling, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile you can hear, the kind that expects you to shrink. "I just inherited millions," she said. Then, without taking a breath, "Pack your things. Get out of the apartment. Now." The line stayed open an extra second like she wanted to hear me react. I didn't. I was sitting in a shared office on the 6th floor, the kind with gray carpet worn thin by decades of rolling desk chairs. The copier behind me made that tired, clunking sound. Someone laughed down the hall. Life moved at a reasonable pace, and that made her words feel unreal, like a radio playing the wrong station. I kept my voice level, the way you do when you're confirming an appointment. "Who told you I asked?" I said. She laughed, sharp and quick. "My uncle's attorney. It's official." "Which attorney?" I asked. "And which court is this in?" There was a pause, not long, just long enough. Then her tone lifted louder, prouder. "You don't need details. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Start packing." I looked up at the clock above my monitor. 2:38 p.m. The second hand moved with a steadiness I trusted. I'd learned a long time ago that details are what you hold on to when someone tries to push you into panic. "What time did you say?" I asked again calmly. She exhaled through her nose, annoyed like I was wasting her victory. "Don't play games. Just get out. This is done." Then the call ended. I stayed where I was. I didn't announce anything. I didn't slam a drawer. I didn't ask to leave early. I sent the 2 emails I was already going to send, closed my laptop, and stood up like it was a normal afternoon. In the elevator, my reflection looked back at me. Hair neat, shoulders square, a calm face that might have read as indifference to anyone who didn't know me. I wasn't calm. I was focused. The drive home felt shorter than usual, like the city had decided not to test me. I didn't imagine reconciliation. I didn't imagine explanations. I went for confirmation. When I turned onto our street, my phone buzzed again. Texts stacked up from her number. "Don't come back later. Take what you need and go. This is happening." I didn't reply. I parked and walked into the lobby. It smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old air conditioning. The front desk clerk avoided my eyes, and that told me more than he probably meant to. I nodded anyway and headed to the elevator. The ride up was quiet. No music, no interruptions, just the hum of cables and my own breathing. Our apartment door was unlocked. That detail landed harder than the phone call. Inside, the lights were on like it was evening, every lamp casting a deliberate glow. On the dining table sat a neat folder, papers aligned with a care that felt like performance. A pen rested on top, angled toward a single line, like a host showing you where to sign a guest book. My wife, Marissa, stood by the window with her phone in hand. Her back was straight, posture practiced. "You're quick," she said without turning. "Sign and go. You can pick up the rest later." I set my keys down and stepped closer to the table. The top page read like certainty, a move-out notice, a separation agreement, a typed list of assets that looked rushed. The language was heavy. The authority was thin, no court seal, no filing number, no notarization, just theater in black ink. "Who drafted this?" I asked. "My lawyer," she said too fast. I took out my phone and photographed the pages one by one, the header, the margins, the letterhead, the envelope. She moved toward me like she was going to snatch the phone out of my hand. I looked up. "No," I said. Her hand froze in the air. Her courage never lasted as long as her pride. She stepped back, irritated. "Are you signing or not?" she demanded. I sat down. The chair made a soft scrape against the floor. I picked up the pen and signed where she pointed, the same way I'd signed routine forms for years. Signing didn't scare me. Trusting someone who needed to humiliate me just to feel tall, that scared me. I closed the folder and stood. "Enjoy your luck," I said quietly. "Just don't confuse it with ownership." She scoffed. "You sound poetic for someone with nothing." Where will you even go? I didn't give her a stage. I went to the bedroom and pulled a small suitcase from the closet. Documents, medication, charger, 2 changes of clothes. I left the rest. Not because I was running, but because I was choosing what deserved to be carried. When I came back into the living room, she was on the phone again, not lowering her voice. Yes, list it tonight, she said. Cash buyers. Put it as an opportunity. We'll sign tomorrow. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock. I stopped at the doorway and looked once more at the clock on the wall. 3:12 p.m. I didn't argue. I didn't ask who she was talking to. I didn't even correct her. I walked out into the hallway with the suitcase in my hand and my phone in my pocket. It vibrated again. Confirm you're not coming back. I took a screenshot and kept walking. Outside, the air felt sharper. I didn't go back upstairs for dignity where I'd just been pushed out. I drove to a basic hotel off a busy road, the kind with cameras over the doors and a front desk that never looked surprised by anything. At check-in, I asked for a high floor away from the elevator. Not luxury, just fewer chances for coincidence. In the room, I set my suitcase against the wall and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll for comfort. I just stared at my reflection in the dark screen and noticed one thing that kept replaying in my head, clearer than the inheritance. It wasn't that she had money, it was how much she enjoyed saying, "Get out." My phone buzzed again on the nightstand, and I let it buzz until the screen went dark. Then I put the phone face down, and I waited. I didn't sleep much, but it wasn't fear. It was my mind doing what it always does when something matters. Filing, sorting, putting events in order so they can't be twisted later. By 5:58 a.m., I was sitting on the edge of the hotel bed with my shoes on, phone in my hand, watching the minutes move. The city outside was already awake. Traffic hissed on wet pavement. A siren passed somewhere far off and faded. Ordinary sounds, steady and dependable. I opened my messages. Overnight, Marissa had sent more. Not one long explanation. Just short waves of control. You don't have to make this hard. Just sign and move on. This could be easy if you let it. Don't show up tomorrow if you're going to embarrass yourself. I didn't answer. I took screenshots. I made sure the timestamps were visible. I didn't do it to punish her. I did it because I'd learned something early in my career, long before marriage ever entered my life. When people start rewriting reality, time is your anchor. Downstairs, I ate dry toast I didn't taste and drank coffee that was too bitter. An empty stomach makes emotions sloppy. I wasn't interested in being sloppy. Back in the room, I showered, dressed plainly, and put my phone on silent. No suit, no dramatic look, just clean clothes and a steady face. At 8:40 a.m., I opened the email Marissa had forwarded the day before, the one she'd thrown at me like proof. It wasn't long, but it had all the things that matter. A date, a time, a location, an attorney's name, and one line that didn't match the way she'd been talking. Presence of the following party is required. Then my full name, typed correctly, not spouse, not guest, not optional, required. I read it twice, then slower a third time. I didn't smile. I didn't feel relief. I felt something click into place, the way a lock sounds when it stops being a suggestion and starts being real. Marissa hadn't invited me out of courtesy. If my name was required, someone else was calling the rules. My phone buzzed again, another message from her. Don't try anything. I took a screenshot and set the phone back down. At 9:05 a.m., I ordered a car. I didn't plan on walking into a room like that alone. A year earlier, I'd met an attorney through work, a sharp woman named Dana Mercer, who handled property disputes and compliance issues for small landlords and management companies. We weren't friends. She wasn't the type to pretend she cared in a personal way. But she was thorough, and I trusted thorough. I'd called her the night before after the hotel settled into silence. I didn't tell her a story. I gave her facts. Call at work. Lockout. Papers with no seal. A scheduled probate meeting. My name listed as required. Her questions were short, practical. Did you sign anything with a notary present? Did she file anything with a court? Do you have proof you were locked out? Do you have copies of what she gave you? When I answered, Her voice stayed flat, like she was marking boxes. Good. Keep everything. Don't respond to threats. Show up. Observe. Don't explain. That morning, she texted me one line. Meet me outside at 9:30. Bring copies. So at 9:12, I stepped out onto the sidewalk and waited where the hotel cameras could see me. I didn't pace. I didn't keep checking my phone. I just stood there and watched people go by, carrying breakfast sandwiches and coffee like their lives were uncomplicated. Dana pulled up exactly on time, got out, and shook my hand once. Firm, brief, useful. You observe, she said. You don't debate. If she tries to provoke you, you let the room handle it. I nodded. We drove to the probate building downtown, a beige block of government architecture with glass doors that looked like they'd been cleaned by habit, not pride. Inside, it smelled faintly of toner and old carpet. A clerk called numbers in a voice that didn't care about anyone's emotions. An elderly couple sat with an envelope held between them like it was fragile. A man argued in a whisper into his phone. A woman tapped a pen against her knee, counting something I couldn't see. Dana and I sat where we could see the wall clock without craning our necks. 9:44. My phone buzzed, but I didn't look. I already knew who it was. At 9:51, Marissa walked in like she was late to brunch, not early to consequence. Perfume arrived before she did. Then the confidence poured over her face like makeup. She wore a pressed blouse and a smile she'd practiced in mirrors. At her side was a woman I didn't recognize, a little younger than her, eyes alert, posture eager. Not a friend, an audience. Marissa spotted me and stopped short, irritation flashing across her face before she rebuilt the smile. You actually came, she said, loud enough for heads to turn. I told you this was done. Dana stood before I did. Good morning, she said, polite, unyielding, addressed to Marissa but meant for the room. Marissa's smile tightened. She glanced at me like she wanted my face to give her something. Anger, shame, pleading, anything she could use later. I gave her nothing. A clerk opened a door and motioned us toward a smaller conference room. Dana walked in first. I followed. Marissa came behind, heels clicking with impatience. Her companion hovered a half step back, eyes flicking between us like she was watching a show she didn't fully understand. The room was simple. Rectangular table, neutral walls, chairs that didn't invite comfort. A man in a plain suit sat with a file folder in front of him, expression neutral, voice built for reading procedures. This is a review meeting, he began. It is not a debate. Marissa leaned back like she was bored. I understand, she said. Let's move quickly. The man didn't react. He opened the file and started reading, section by section, the way someone reads weather warnings, property descriptions, estimated values, a list of obligations that had to be handled before anything moved. As the numbers were spoken, Marissa's posture changed. Confidence crept back into her shoulders, her chin lifting with each figure like she was physically growing. Numbers do that to people who mistake them for power. Then the tone shifted, not with drama, with weight. The representative turned a page and read a clause slowly, carefully, like each word mattered. No beneficiary may use the estate to evict, abandon, or humiliate a spouse from the shared home without lawful process and appropriate support. Marissa let out a sharp laugh, loud and disbelieving. That's ridiculous. It is what is written, the representative said without emphasis, and it is enforceable. Dana's pen moved once across her notepad. Marissa's companion stiffened slightly, the smile slipping like she'd suddenly realized the room wasn't performing for them. The representative continued. More conditions, restrictions against premature listing or sale, requirements for notice, language that made it clear the estate was not a personal weapon. Then he paused and looked up. During the initial administrative period, he read, an additional party is designated to observe, document, and ensure compliance. He said my name in full. It sounded different out loud. Official, anchored. Marissa's mouth opened, then closed. That's wrong, she said a little too fast. He has no standing. The designation is explicit, the representative replied. It is not advisory. Marissa pushed her chair back. You can't be serious. Dana didn't look at her. She let the silence sit. I looked at the clock on the wall. 10:11 a.m. I held on to that moment the way you hold on to a receipt. Not for emotion, for proof. The representative began outlining next steps, paperwork to be issued, the timeline for administration. His voice stayed even. Marissa wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at me like she was trying to decide whether to attack or retreat. My phone vibrated in my pocket, not her number. Unknown. I let it ring once, then answered quietly, because Dana nodded toward it, just a small motion. A man spoke fast, tight. "Sir, I'm the listing agent. There's a problem." I didn't move. "What problem?" I asked. "Your wife took a deposit last night," he said. "The buyer is here demanding a contract today. He says he's been misled. He's threatening to go to the police." Dana's hand touched my arm, light and steady. I put the call on speaker. And I watched Marissa's eyes shift just for a second, like the floor under her confidence had finally moved. Then I waited for Dana to speak. Dana didn't raise her voice. She didn't change her expression. She simply leaned in, close enough that the agent on speaker would understand there was counsel in the room. "This is Dana Mercer," she said. "I represent Mr. Callahan. You're going to pause all activity immediately. There is no authority to sell or accept funds at this stage. You will email us the listing, every message, and proof of the deposit. Do not accept any additional money." On the other end, the agent's confidence collapsed into caution. You could hear it in his breathing. I didn't realize," he said. "You do now," Dana replied. "Send everything within the hour." The call ended. The probate representative watched us for a moment, then continued reading as if this was common, because for him, it probably was. People mix grief and money and impatience all the time. The paper stays the same. Marissa stared at me like she wanted me to confess to a trick. "You did this!" she hissed, not caring anymore who heard. I didn't answer her. Answering would have made it a conversation. I kept my eyes on the table. The representative finished outlining the next steps and closed the folder. The meeting ended without ceremony. No gavel, no dramatic exit. Just an assigned timeline and the reminder that any attempt to list or encumber property before authorization would be recorded. Outside, sunlight hit the courthouse steps like it was a normal day. People walked by carrying lunch bags and folders. A bus sighed at the curb. A cyclist waited at a red light. Marissa stormed ahead, phone already in her hand, her companion scrambling to keep up. Dana and I moved slower, not because we were tired, because moving fast was what had gotten Marissa into trouble. In the car, Dana opened her laptop on her knees and turned her phone into a hotspot like it was routine. "First shift," she said without looking at me. "She's acting like she owns something she doesn't have yet. That's the mistake that creates records." My phone vibrated again. A text from Marissa, sharp and immediate. "You did this. Fix it now." Dana held out her hand. I passed her the phone and she glanced once, then handed it back. "Do not respond emotionally," she said. "If you respond at all, it's one line, boundary, and you screenshot." I took another screenshot, timestamp visible. Then I typed exactly what she'd suggested, nothing more. "Stop contacting me directly. Communicate through counsel." I sent it, and then I put the phone face down on the seat beside me. Dana drove to her office instead of mine. It was a quiet building with frosted glass and a receptionist who didn't ask personal questions. Inside, her conference room smelled like paper and lemon polish, the same scent every law office seems to share. Dana took a legal pad and drew a straight, vertical line down the page. "Timeline," she said. "We build it clean, dates and times, no opinions." She wrote at the top, "Call at work, lockout, fake papers, unauthorized, listing deposit harassment." Then she slid the pad toward me. "Start giving me timestamps." I didn't have to search my memory. I'd been collecting them without trying. That's what happens when you've spent years in operations and compliance. You stop trusting vibes. You trust logs. "Call came in at 2:38 p.m. yesterday," I said. Dana wrote it down. "Apartment door was unlocked when I arrived, around 3:05 p.m., papers on the table, I photographed them." She nodded, wrote. Listing call happened at 10:23 a.m. today, I said. Dana underlined it once. Good, she said. That's your first measurable leverage. Not because it hurts her, because it ties her actions to third parties. Her email pinged. The agent had sent a message already, subject line urgent and messy. Dana opened it and began pulling out attachments, photos of the listing, a screenshot of the ad, a receipt showing the deposit amount and the time it was sent, a thread of text between the agent and Marissa. Dana's face didn't change, but her pen tapped once against the table. She's representing authority she doesn't have, she said. That's not a marital issue, that's a legal one. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize, and the message was written like a threat in a cheap costume. You are required to report immediately for questioning. This is serious. No agency name, no badge number, no address, just urgency. Dana glanced once and shook her head. Bait, she said. She wants you to move without me. Anyone real gives you identifiers. We screenshot, log, and ignore. I did exactly that. Screenshot, timestamp, saved to the same folder as the others. Dana created a new email thread and copied the brokerage's main address, the agent, and someone higher up whose name was on the listing documents. The tone of her message was calm and absolute. Unauthorized listing, unauthorized acceptance of funds, immediate cessation of activity, preservation of all records, no further communication with my wife regarding the property. Then she added one more line that felt small but carried weight. Any contact regarding this matter must be directed to counsel. She hit send. A minute later, the agent replied with an apology that sounded like fear wearing politeness. He promised cooperation. He said the buyer was angry and demanding the contract. Dana didn't argue with the apology. She let it sit as admission. Then the buyer called. He didn't want to speak to Dana. He wanted to speak to me, which told me he was already being fed a story about me. Dana looked at me, waited. I nodded once. She put the call on speaker and sat close enough that her presence felt like a guardrail. I worked my whole life for that money, the buyer said. His voice was tight, tired, angry in a controlled way. She said everything was clear. I gave a deposit. I want the contract. I didn't apologize. Apologies imply responsibility. You were not misled by me, I said carefully. You were misled by someone who did not have the right to sell. I'm taking steps to make sure you don't lose more. There was a silence, not friendly, not hostile, just recalibration. She told me you're trying to steal the inheritance, he said. She locked me out of my home yesterday, I replied. Today she tried to sell something she doesn't own yet. Those are facts. Everything else is noise. Dana added, steady and clear, do not transfer additional funds. Preserve all records. You will receive written notice that protects you. You can use that to recover your deposit. The man exhaled, long. I don't want trouble, he said. Neither do we, Dana replied. That's why we slow this down. The call ended. Something loosened in my chest, not relief, just clarity. Marissa had dragged a stranger into her impatience, and strangers bring mirrors. They don't care about her pride. They care about their money. My phone vibrated again. Marissa. I didn't answer. A voicemail arrived seconds later, her voice stripped of polish. What did you tell them? She demanded. They're panicking. You're doing this on purpose. Dana didn't react. She opened a new document and began drafting a formal cease and desist. Not dramatic, just clean. No direct contact. No representation of authority. No communication with agents or buyers. All issues through counsel. Preserve all records. While she typed, I looked at the photos of the move-out notice again. The paper that had tried to scare me into running. The more I stared, the more obvious it became. It wasn't filed. It wasn't sealed. It wasn't even properly formatted. It was meant to feel official, not be official. Dana glanced at it and gave the smallest nod. Performance, she said. A scare tactic, useful only as evidence of intent. My phone buzzed with another text. I know where you are. I didn't move. I handed the phone to Dana. She read it once, then placed it on the table like it was a piece of glass. Good, she said. Now we document intimidation. She started a second file. A request for a no-contact order. Not filed yet, just built. Dates, times, copies. We may not need this, she said, but having it ready changes the temperature. I sat back and watched her work. No anger, no speeches, just the quiet movement of process. Outside the window, the afternoon kept going. People walked their dogs. Someone carried a stack of takeout boxes across the street. The world looked steady again. Then Dana's email pinged. A reply from Marissa's attorney, the name that had been typed on the fake paperwork. The message was short, curt, cautious. We are reviewing. Dana didn't smile. She didn't comment. She printed it, placed it in the folder, and slid the folder toward me. That's the sound of distance, she said. Her attorney is stepping away from her behavior. I picked up my phone and checked the time out of habit. 3:26 p.m. And for the first time since Marissa's call at my desk, I could see the day the way Dana saw it. Not chaos. A sequence. I put the phone face down again. Then I waited. By late afternoon, the noise changed. It wasn't louder. It was scattered. That's how you can tell someone is losing control. Not when they shout, but when they start pulling at too many threads at once. Dana didn't chase the noise. She organized it. She turned the legal pad toward me again. We're shifting, she said, from reacting to directing. We do it in steps. She wrote 3 lines, slow and deliberate. Step 1, contain third parties. Step 2, lock communication channels. Step 3, prepare enforcement. She looked up at me. You follow the steps. You don't improvise. I nodded. Step 1 was already moving. The brokerage had stopped the listing. The buyer had been told to preserve records. The agent had admitted in writing that the listing came from Marissa and that a deposit had been accepted. Dana printed every email and stapled each thread separately. She didn't trust digital alone. Paper has a way of becoming real in rooms where it matters. Step 2 was next. She sent a second email, this time copied to the brokerage's compliance department and the managing broker. Her message was short. No emotion, no accusation. All communications must be directed to counsel. Any further contact from Ms. Hale to agents, buyers, or tenants must cease. Any harassment toward Mr. Callahan will be documented and escalated. She hit send, then leaned back and waited. While we waited, I checked my phone. 2 missed calls from Marissa. 3 texts. Pick up. We need to talk. You're ruining my life. A 4th text came through before I could lock the screen. You always needed someone else to fight for you. I didn't answer. I screenshotted, then added it to the same folder. Dana didn't need to tell me anymore. It was muscle memory now. Then a message arrived from an unknown number again. Same costume, different stitching. Report immediately for clarification regarding a complaint filed against you. No agency name, no reference number, no contact details. Just urgency. Dana glanced and shook her head. Second version, she said. Same tactic, screenshot, log it as attempted impersonation. That matters later if we need it. I did. At 4:11 p.m., Dana's email pinged with a reply from the managing broker. The tone had changed. No bravado, no opportunity, just careful language. Listing removed. Internal review initiated. We will cooperate fully. Please advise next steps. Dana printed it. That's step 1 complete, she said. Third parties are now afraid of her, not you. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voicemail from Marissa. Her voice was different, no command, no mockery, just speed and fear trying to sound like authority. They're talking about police, she said. I didn't know it would go like this. You need to fix it. I saved it and didn't respond. Dana didn't react either. She was already drafting step 3. She opened a new document titled, Petition Draft No Contact Order. Not filed, not threatened, just ready. She filled it with timestamps, screenshots, and short factual lines. Call at work, lockout, fake move-out notice, harassment, threats, unknown impersonation messages. I know where you are. No adjectives, no feelings, just sequence. This isn't revenge, she said quietly, almost as if she was reminding the room. This is protection. If she escalates, we don't scramble. We file. At 4:38 p.m., my phone rang. Not Marissa. A number I didn't recognize. Dana held up a finger. She wanted to hear it. I answered. Hello? A woman spoke quickly, voice tight like she was trying to sound calm. I don't want trouble, she said. I was with Marissa at probate. She told me things. I didn't know what I was walking into. I recognized the tone. Someone who had agreed to be an audience and now realized they were a witness. I'm listening, I said. She said you were trying to steal it, the woman continued. That you were dangerous, that you were manipulating the process. I didn't deny it. Denials become conversations. Why are you calling? I asked. There was a pause. Then she exhaled. Because she called me an hour ago, she said. She asked me for money. She said everything's falling apart and that you set her up. I don't want to be involved, but I have messages. Dana leaned forward slightly, just enough for me to feel her direction. If you have messages, I said, keep them. Don't delete anything. I have texts, she admitted, and a voice note. Keep them, I repeated. They protect you. Her breath shook a little. She's spiraling, she said, quieter. She said she knows where you're staying. I didn't look at Dana, but I felt her attention sharpen. If she contacts you again, I said, don't respond. Save everything. If anyone asks you for a statement, speak to your own attorney. The woman made a small sound, like relief and fear mixed. Okay, she said. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I believe you, I replied. Not warmly, just plainly. The call ended. Dana wrote one line on the pad without looking up. Witness contact, preservation advised. Then she drew a box around it. This is what happens when people use others as props, she said. Props step away. At 5:02 p.m., Marissa called again. Dana looked at me. Answer once, she said. No arguing, boundary only. If she threatens, we document. I picked up. Marissa didn't greet me. She went straight to accusation. What are you doing? She demanded. Her breath sounded ragged. The agent says everything's frozen. People are calling me. They're blaming me. That's correct, I said. You can't do this, she snapped. You're overstepping. I'm following instructions, I replied. Direct everything to your attorney. You think you're so calm, she said. You think you've won. Winning implied a game. I didn't say that out loud. I kept my voice even. This isn't a fight, I said. It's a process. You took money for something you don't have the authority to sell. She went quiet for half a second. Then her voice dropped. They're coming after me, she said. I didn't send them. I didn't send them either, I replied. I told the truth. Her breathing changed, a sound like she was trying not to cry. Help me, she said, almost a whisper. Help and rescue aren't the same thing. She'd spent years treating them like they were. I am helping, I said. I'm stopping you from making it worse. Call your attorney. Follow their advice. Stop contacting me. Her voice flared one more time, weakly reaching for power. I can accuse you, she said. I can say you're harassing me. I didn't react. If you do, I said, it becomes another document. That's all. She hung up. Dana didn't smile. She nodded once, like a box had been checked. At 5:19 p.m., her attorney finally sent an email. The tone was different than before. Not aggressive, not playful. Professional and distant. My client will cease direct contact. Please direct all communication through counsel. Dana printed it and placed it on top of the stack. That's step 2 complete, she said. Channels are locked. I looked down at the papers, the timeline, the emails, the screenshots, the printed admission from the brokerage. Process wasn't exciting, but it was solid. Dana slid the draft petition toward me, the one she'd prepared but hadn't filed. Read it, she said. I did. Every sentence matched the day exactly. No embellishment, no drama. Just reality, written in a way a judge could recognize. When I finished, I placed it back on the table. What now? I asked. Dana tapped the top corner of the petition. Now we wait for the next move, she said. and we make sure we're ready. Outside, the evening light softened across the street. Office workers walked to their cars, shoulders relaxed like their lives weren't being rewritten by someone else's impulsive decisions. My phone buzzed once more. A new message, this time from an unknown courier service notification. Package delivered to front desk. Dana looked at the screen, then at me. "You didn't order anything," she said. "No," I replied. We both sat still for a moment. Then Dana reached for her keys. "Let's go get it," she said, calm as ever, "and we treat it like evidence." I stood up, picked up the folder, and followed her out. The lobby of the building was brighter than Dana's office. All polished tile and soft music meant to make people feel like nothing bad ever happened there. I walked beside her without rushing, folder held flat against my side. The front desk clerk recognized me, then quickly looked away like he'd been trained to avoid involvement. He handed over a thin envelope without comment. My name was typed neatly on the label. Dana didn't open it in the lobby. She didn't like audiences either. We took it back upstairs to her office, to the same conference room, and she placed it on the table with the care people use for things that might cut. "Gloves," she said. She kept a small box in a drawer for moments like this. She slid a pair across to me and pulled on her own. Then she opened the envelope at one end, slow. Inside was a printed copy of the same email Marissa had forwarded earlier, but this version was on letterhead with a raised stamp pressed into the top corner. Not a court seal. Something else. The ink looked slightly thicker than regular office toner, as if it had been printed to feel official, not to be official. Dana held it at an angle, watched how the light caught it. "Couriered," she said. "Someone wanted you to feel watched." The paper confirmed tomorrow's schedule again, the same attorney name, the same location, and the same line. "Presence of the following party is required." My full name. Dana placed it next to the other documents like it belonged there. "This doesn't change anything," she said. "But it shows intent. She's trying to create pressure with paper." My phone buzzed on the table, buzzed on the... "Marissa." Dana looked at me. "Answer once," she said again. No tone, no debate. I answered. Marissa's voice came through tight and fast, like she'd been running. "What did you do?" she demanded. "The listing is gone. The buyer is furious. My attorney is asking questions. People are calling me a fraud." I didn't correct her. I didn't comfort her either. "You took money," I said. "You represented authority you don't have." "I was going to have it," she snapped. "They said I was the heir." "You were told you might be," I replied. "That's not the same as having it." She made a sound, half laugh, half disbelief. "You're enjoying this," she said. "I'm preventing damage," I replied. "There's a difference." Silence sat between us. I could hear street noise on her end, cars, someone calling her name like she was late. Then her voice dropped. "They're saying the buyer might go to the police," she said. "I didn't know it would get this serious. I just wanted to start my life." Money doesn't explain behavior. It reveals it. I didn't say that. I stayed with facts. "You started something yesterday," I said, "when you locked me out. Today you made it worse by involving strangers." Her breathing grew uneven. "So that's it?" she asked, like she was trying to pull sympathy out of the air. "You're just going to let me drown." "I'm not rescuing you," I said. "I'm telling you how to stop. Call your attorney. Follow their advice. Do not contact buyers, agents, tenants, or me." Her voice rose again, reaching for the only tool she'd used for years. "I can accuse you," she said. "I can tell them you're harassing me. I can say you threatened me." Dana's eyebrows lifted slightly just once. I kept my voice calm. "If you do," I said, "it becomes another document." She hung up. I didn't stare at my phone afterward. I didn't need to. Dana had already heard enough. She wrote the time down and the threat summary in a single line. No emotion. Threat to accuse. Logged. Then she looked at me across the table. "This is the controlled part," she said. "She's probing for a reaction. She wants you to create a mistake she can point at. You don't give her one." My phone buzzed again. A text this time. "We need to talk. Face to face." Dana shook her head before I could move. No, she said, not without counsel, not in private, not ever again. I didn't reply. I screenshotted and filed it. At 6:05 p.m., an email came in from the buyer's attorney. Short, direct, written like a door closing. We expect a full refund of the deposit within 48 hours. Failure to do so will result in formal complaint. Dana read it once and set it down. Now the pressure points at her, she said. And that's not you doing anything. That's math. A few minutes later, another email arrived from the brokerage. We have instructed Ms. Hale in writing to cease all communication. Listing has been removed. We will cooperate with any investigation. Dana printed it and added it to the stack. Then she did something small that mattered. She opened her calendar and blocked a time for the next morning, the probate follow-up, and a separate slot right after. Because she's going to show up somewhere, she said. She won't sit quietly. I looked at the envelope again, the couriered paper that was trying to feel heavier than it was. What do you think that was really for? I asked. Dana leaned back, fingers steepled, voice steady. To make you move, she said. People like her believe urgency is a weapon. They think if they can get you to step out of your lane, they can claim you swerved. I nodded. Outside the window, the sky had turned deep blue, the kind that promises night without weather. The city moved on. Somewhere, a restaurant door opened and closed, letting out a burst of laughter and warm air. My phone stayed quiet for a few minutes, and that quiet felt different, not peace, more like a pause between attempts. At 7:14 p.m., Dana's office phone rang, not my cell, the office line. The receptionist transferred the call without commentary. Dana answered. Her voice changed slightly, not warmer, just more formal. Yes, she said. This is counsel. She listened for a moment, then glanced at me. It's the property manager, she mouthed and put the call on speaker. A man spoke, hesitant. I'm sorry to bother you, he said. But we have an issue at the apartment building. Ms. Hale has been telling tenants they might need to leave. She mentioned a sale. People are upset. Dana didn't react. She asked one question. Do you have that in writing? She said. Well, not exactly, the manager replied. But one tenant recorded a voicemail. Another has a text message. Dana nodded once. Tell them to preserve everything, she said. No one is being evicted today. No notices are valid without proper process. We will send a written statement. The manager exhaled like he'd been holding his breath all day. Thank you, he said. People were scared. Dana ended the call and immediately drafted a short notice to the property manager and tenants, the kind that didn't sound dramatic but restored order. No sale authorized. No eviction notices issued. All communications must go through counsel. She hit send. Then she looked at me again, calm as ever. Tomorrow, she said, we keep it clean. You don't speak unless I ask. You don't respond to her performance. We let the paper do its job. I nodded. My phone buzzed one more time as if on cue, a new text from Marissa. I know you're turning everyone against me. I didn't answer. I screenshotted, filed it, and put the phone face down. Dana gathered the stack of printed documents, squared the edges, and slid them into the folder like she was sealing a case file. Go back to your hotel, she said. Different route. Don't stop for errands. If you see anything off, you call me and you call security. Not her. Not anyone else. I stood, picked up the folder, and felt how heavy paper gets when it starts to matter. On the way out, I checked the time out of habit. 7:41 p.m. The numbers didn't feel like weapons anymore. They felt like markers. And as I stepped into the night air, I realized the controlled confrontation wasn't going to be a shouting match. It was going to be a room, a clock, a document, and a person who couldn't stand that the rules didn't bend. I drove back to the hotel, parked under a light, and sat in the car for a moment without turning the engine off. Then I went inside and took the folder up to my room. I set it on the desk, opened it, and stared at the top page. Tomorrow's schedule. 10 o'clock. And below it, in clean typed letters, the line that had started to change everything. Presence required. I reached for my phone to set an alarm, and that's when it vibrated again. Not her. A number I recognized from my past. Someone I hadn't heard from in years. I let it ring once. Then I answered. The number on the screen made me sit a little straighter. It was my older cousin, Evan. We'd grown up in the same neighborhood, drifted apart, and only spoke now and then. He wasn't dramatic by nature, which is why I answered. "Hey," I said. His voice came through low and careful. "I heard some things. I wanted to check if you're okay." "I'm fine," I said. "What did you hear?" A pause, then he exhaled. "Marissa called my mom," he said. "She told her you were trying to block the inheritance. She said you were threatening her. She asked if we could talk you down." I didn't react. I didn't correct the story point by point. I kept it simple. "She locked me out," I said. "She accepted a deposit on a property she can't sell yet. Counsel is handling it." Evan went quiet for a moment, like he was recalculating who he'd believed. "She didn't mention the deposit," he said. "She wouldn't," I replied. He hesitated, then said, "Look, I'm calling because there's something else. Uncle Ray's attorney is my client at work. I didn't want to get involved, but I saw your name on an email chain today. You're listed as required. That's not an accident." I felt my grip tighten on the phone, just slightly. "Do you know why?" I asked. "I don't know details," Evan said, "but I know how those clauses work. If the beneficiary breaches conditions, distributions can be paused. They can require corrective steps, they can add oversight." I let that land without commenting. It fit what Dana had been building all day. Process, paper, sequence. "Thanks," I said. "That's helpful." Evan lowered his voice even more. "She's calling people fast. She's trying to shape the story before the documents do." "I know," I said. He hesitated again. "If anyone asks, what do you want me to say?" "Say I'm complying with the will," I replied. "No more, no less." "Okay," he said. "Take care of yourself." When the call ended, I didn't feel comforted. I felt confirmed. I sat at the desk in the hotel room with the folder open and my phone beside it. The paper looked the same, but my mind was steadier. Marissa wasn't just acting impulsively, she was trying to outrun what had already been written. At 8:12 p.m., Dana texted. "Probate admin wants copies tonight. I am sending a secure link. Upload everything." A minute later, a secure upload request came through. I moved without hurry. Screenshots, photos of the fake notices, call logs, the agent's email, the deposit receipt, the impersonation texts, Marissa's threat. I named each file with the date and time, no commentary, just labels. Call 2:38 p.m., lockout 3:05 p.m., fake notice, photos, deposit receipt, 10:23 a.m., threat. Text 3:11 p.m. impersonation MSG 12 to 52 p.m. by 8:27. Everything was uploaded. Then I sat back and waited. At 9:03 p.m. Dana called. "Probate administrator confirmed receipt," she said. Her voice was calm, practical. "They're issuing a formal compliance notice to Marissa tonight." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means the estate puts it in writing that she attempted an unauthorized sale and used the estate as leverage to displace you," Dana said. "They instruct her to cease. They put a hold on any early disbursement until she complies and resolves third-party harm." I didn't feel satisfied. I felt aligned. This wasn't about my pride. This was about stopping damage. "And the buyer?" I asked. "Buyer's attorney agreed to pursue refund through the brokerage first," Dana said. "Brokerage wants this off their hands. They'll pressure her. If she can't refund, they may refund and pursue her. Either way, it stops pointing at you." I looked at the folder again, at the printed emails, the clean typed line with my name. "Any risk to me?" I asked. Dana paused, not because she was unsure, but because she was choosing accuracy. "Only if you break pattern," she said. "You don't contact her, you don't meet her, you don't threaten. You let every step be documented. You've done that." "Okay," I said. "One more thing," she added. "I arranged a civil standby tomorrow afternoon. We will retrieve the rest of your personal property from the apartment. 2 officers present. No private conversation." I didn't realize how much I'd been holding in my shoulders until she said that. Not emotion, just tension from unfinished tasks. Thank you, I said. Get sleep, she replied. We move again in the morning. After the call, I turned the overhead light off and left the bedside lamp on. The room stayed quiet. My phone didn't buzz. No new threats. No fresh pressure. Just the hum of the building and the distant sound of traffic. I slept. Not deeply, but enough. When I woke, the first thing I did was check the time. 6:41 a.m. Then I checked my phone. 2 emails had come in overnight. One from the probate administrator, copied to Dana, subject line, "Compliance notice issued." The body was short and structured. It confirmed receipt of our documentation, reminded all parties that no sale or listing was authorized, and stated that any attempt to displace a spouse without lawful process was a violation of estate conditions. It instructed Marissa to cease all direct contact and to correct any representations made to third parties. It didn't sound angry. It sounded final. The second email was from the brokerage. Subject line, refund process. They confirmed the listing was removed, the deposit issue was being handled, and a refund plan was in progress. They asked for no further contact with Marissa and requested all inquiries be directed to their counsel. I stared at those 2 emails for a full minute without moving, not because I was surprised, because it was the first time in days that something landed that didn't require interpretation. It was written. It was dated. It was real. At 7:10 a.m., Dana called again. She received the compliance notice, she said. Her attorney acknowledged it. And her? I asked. She's quiet, Dana replied. Quiet is what happens when someone realizes the room is bigger than their voice. I didn't respond. I just listened. The civil standby is confirmed for 2:00 p.m., she continued. You'll get your things. We'll document condition of the unit. We'll keep it clean. What about the apartment? I asked. Living arrangements. Her attorney agreed in writing that you are not to be displaced without proper process, Dana said. They're offering a temporary housing stipend until the separation filing is heard. It's not generosity, it's containment. I looked out the window at the morning light sliding across the parking lot. Okay, I said. Dana's tone softened just slightly, not emotional, just human. You did this right, she said. You stayed inside the rules. That's why this is resolving. When the call ended, I sat at the desk and opened the folder one more time. I lined the papers up, squared the edges, and placed the 2 new emails on top. Then I put the phone face down. And for the first time since that buzz on my desk, I didn't feel like I was bracing for impact. I felt like I was moving toward closure. The civil standby was scheduled for 2:00 p.m., but I arrived early anyway. Not because I was nervous, because being early meant I wasn't rushed. Dana met me outside the building. 2 officers stood nearby, calm and bored in the way you want them to be. No lights, no drama, just presence. We rode up together. When the elevator opened on my floor, the hallway smelled the same as always, carpet cleaner and someone's cooking, ordinary life pressed up against the edge of what had happened in my apartment. Dana spoke quietly as we walked. You don't talk to her, she said. If she's there, you don't explain. You don't correct. You let the officers handle distance. I nodded once. The apartment door was locked now. That made sense. Locks show up when control starts slipping. One of the officers knocked. There was movement inside, then the sound of a chain being undone. The door opened. Marissa stood there, makeup done, hair set, like she was walking into a meeting she planned to win. But her eyes didn't match the effort. They were tired and sharp at the same time. She looked past the officers and focused on me. This is so unnecessary, she said, loud enough for the hallway to hear. You always do this. You always turn things into a legal circus. I didn't respond. Dana handed the officer a copy of the written agreement from Marissa's attorney confirming the standby and the boundaries. The officer glanced at it, then looked back at Marissa. Ma'am, he said evenly, we're here so everyone stays calm. He'll collect personal items. No confrontation, no blocking access. Understood? Marissa's smile tightened. Sure, she said, like she was agreeing to something beneath her. I stepped inside. The apartment looked the same, but it didn't feel like it belonged to either of us anymore. The lamps were off, the dining table was cleared, the folder and pen she'd staged were gone. Props don't last when the audience leaves. I moved room to room without rushing. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I packed clothes, books, documents, a framed photo I hadn't realized I wanted until I saw it again. I took my grandfather's watch from the dresser drawer. I took a small box of letters from an old shoebox in the closet. Marissa hovered near the kitchen, arms crossed, watching as if I was stealing time from her. "At least tell them," she said finally, voice lower now, less performative. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding." Dana answered without looking up from her notes. "It was not a misunderstanding," she said. "It was unauthorized. You accepted funds. You represented authority you did not have. You were instructed to stop." Marissa's mouth opened, then closed. She turned her eyes back to me like she wanted me to rescue her from the words. I didn't. I finished packing, zipped the suitcase, checked the room once more to make sure I wasn't leaving anything important out of habit. The officer watched the process with polite indifference. That was the point. No one needed to care emotionally. They only needed the order to hold. As we walked out, Marissa tried one last time. "You're really just going to leave," she said. I stopped at the threshold, not to argue, just to speak clearly. "I'm going to follow the written plan," I said. "That's all." Then I stepped into the hallway. The elevator doors closed and her voice disappeared like it had never mattered. Outside, Dana handed me a copy of the updated agreement from Marissa's attorney: temporary housing stipend, no direct contact, all communication through counsel, a schedule for the formal separation filing. It wasn't warm, it wasn't personal, it was contained. "This is what resolution looks like," Dana said. "Not happy, just stable." On the drive back, we stopped at one of the properties tied to the estate, not to manage it, just to quiet a problem that shouldn't have existed. A tenant had left a message with the property manager saying Marissa told them they might need to move. An elderly woman opened her door part-way when we arrived, hands unsteady, eyes cautious. "They said we might have to go," she whispered. "That it was an opportunity." I kept my voice low. "No one is being thrown out today," I said. "And if anything changes later, it will be written. Proper notice, real process, not rumors." Her shoulders dropped like she'd been holding them up for days. She didn't thank me dramatically. She just nodded, the way people do when fear loosens its grip. When we got back to Dana's office, she gave me one final instruction. "Tonight, you do something normal," she said. "You don't reread everything. You don't stare at your phone. You let your nervous system catch up." I drove to a different hotel than the first one. Same reason as before. Not fear, preparation. In the room, I set my suitcase down, placed the folder on the desk, and did something I hadn't done all week. I made tea. The small routine felt almost strange. The kettle clicked off, steam rose. The cup warmed my hands. I drank slowly and let the quiet sit without trying to fill it. Then I organized. Not because I needed to build a case now, but because I wanted the week to have edges, a beginning and an end. I created one folder on my laptop and named it with the date range. Inside it, I made subfolders: messages, emails, documents, call logs. I saved everything one last time, then closed the laptop. At 9:18 p.m., my phone lit up with one new message. Not from Marissa. From her attorney, confirming again that she would have no direct contact and that all matters would proceed through counsel. It was the final version of the sentence I'd been waiting to see. No more buzzing, no more late-night pressure disguised as urgency. Just a boundary, written down. I didn't reply. I set the phone face down and turned the lamp off. The next morning, I woke to sunlight and the sound of traffic below. I showered, dressed, and walked to a nearby cafe. Not a special place, just a place with clean tables and a quiet corner. I ate eggs and toast. I drank coffee that actually tasted like coffee. I watched people come and go with laptops and grocery bags and kids tugging on sleeves. Ordinary scenes, the kind you miss when your life gets reduced to reaction. On my way out, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Evan. "You did the right thing." Also, my coworker's sister is going through something similar. Husband locked out, fake paperwork. She doesn't know what to do. Can I connect her with your attorney? I stared at the message for a second, then typed back, yes. Tell her to keep records and slow down. I'll share Dana's office info. I sent it, and I felt something settle that money can't touch. Not victory. Responsibility handled correctly. Back in my room, I packed my things neatly. I wiped the desk down with a hotel tissue, a small habit from years of travel, and realized I was doing it the way I clean a space when I'm ready to leave it behind. Marissa had wanted to turn the inheritance into a weapon. What it became instead was a system reminding her that paper has weight and time doesn't bend. Later that day, I took a walk around the block. No headphones, no calls, just air and movement. I watched a dog chase a leaf across the sidewalk. I listened to the soft noise of a city that didn't care about my personal drama. That was the best part. The world kept going, and so did I. If you stayed with me through this, thank you. If you want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from and what time it is right now. 2 popular stories will be on your screen next, so you can keep listening if you want something calm to carry into the rest of your day.